Who influences you, and do you influence others? Today on Happy Hour. Welcome back to Happy Hour, our podcast for young adults here at the Cathedral of the Most Sacred Heart of Jesus. I am Rick.
And I'm Holly.
And you're in studio back here from home.
I drove right from Roswell, Georgia, right to here.
Roswell, Georgia?
Yes.
Did I not know this was Roswell before? I feel like I didn't know that.
Yes. Mm-hmm. It's near Marietta, Alpharetta area. So
Do you tell people you're from Roswell?
No, I just say Atlanta.
Okay.
Everyone usually just goes with Atlanta.
Yeah, because then we think you're just from, Area 51
right.
or something. Right?
What does that mean? Yeah.
Aliens. Roswell. Well, we're glad you're back. I'm glad you're back. Are you glad to be back?
I am certainly glad to be back.
Did you have a nice time with your family?
Yes. It was lovely.
Yay.
Very lovely.
But it's also very lovely to be back.
Yes.
Okay, good. Well, we have an awesome topic today. We're going to be talking about the importance of giving back to younger generations. And while we were planning for this and everything, I actually had a couple of people here with me kind of helping out, doing some work. And I said, hey, why don't you jump on the podcast? So I have two extremely special guests. In fact, if this were a TV show, their names would appear probably first or last of the main characters on the intro credits as, special guest appearance by. And those special guests are my oldest daughter, Sydney. Sydney, say hi.
Hello.
And my second oldest daughter, Kira. Kira, how are you?
Good.
Good.
How about you?
Thanks. I'm doing great. Love just sitting here and being with you guys. And this is your first time on podcast, yeah?
Yes.
Are you nervous?
A little bit.
It's okay. Everybody listening they're all great people. Every one of them that listens to this, every single one, they're great. You know what? If you're listening, you're great. Every one of you.
Give
You're
yourself
amazing.
a pat on
There
the
you go. Not if you're driving, though. Keep both hands on the wheel. Thank you very much. So we thought, if we're going to talk about the importance of giving back to younger generations, it would be nice to have maybe some younger generations here. And so, Sydney, what grade are you in?
I'm in 10th grade.
Ooh, 10th grade high school. How's that going so far?
It's going all right.
Yeah. Highs and lows, right?
Yes.
Okay. The full high school experience?
Definitely.
Actually, now that you go back, the moment that you go back, you actually get the real full high school experience for the first time since you've been in high school?
Pretty much, yeah.
Because something changed.
Yep, no masks.
No masks for the first time, at least in terms of a mandate, right?
Yeah.
Or did you,
So.
there was no time where you didn't have to wear a mask, right?
Yeah, correct.
Okay, correct. So that'll be interesting.
It will be interesting. It'll be very weird.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I don't know what my teachers look like.
Oh,
That is
that's
the
right.
Funny thing, you only see them from the
Think about
nose,
that.
eyes up.
So, I feel like I have, all these, images of what I think they look like, and then they're going to look completely different.
Like, hey, those are some straight teeth. Or, wow,
Some very crooked
it's
teeth.
some time for dental work. All right. That's going to be really interesting. I didn't, you don't even think about that. You've been in high school for 2 years and you have this image of who they are, but that's not a real image. It's a false image. That's crazy.
That's crazy.
I think,
To think about that, and that you didn't really you've never really known what they look like.
Yeah, never seen their face.
Are you excited for that?
I really don't know how to feel about that.
Because it could be a big disappointment.
It could be.
I don't know. When we have our masks on, we appear to be something that we're not. Oh, that can be a whole other podcast. Take off your mask.
Ooh.
Oh, that's a good title.
We're gonna have to do that.
I think
Sounds
so.
very good.
Yes, we will. Okay, but so we have a high school student being represented. But Kira, what grade are you in?
I am in 8th grade.
Oof, 8th grade. I'm going to be honest with you right here, right now. I've been in school a lot in my life, right? And I'm currently back. I don't know how, but I'm currently back in classes. 8th grade year, hot take, best year of school.
Really?
Yes.
Ooh, I
Wow.
beg to differ.
Mm.
Also
Do you
debate.
say so, Kira?
So far it's been pretty good. I definitely think 7th grade was pretty bad because math.
Math was a struggle.
Algebra.
It's a valid
Yes.
point.
But also 8th grade has been super fun. I'm about to have a field trip to North Carolina, and we're gonna sleep on an aircraft carrier.
Okay,
So
that's actually pretty cool.
yes.
I get to chaperone.
Oh, so you get to do it too.
It sounds less cool every time I think about it. I got to be honest. It's good for you guys, but I'm like, what do I get? A cot or do I get a
Sleeping
floor?
bag?
What do I get? Do I have to be on the ship like outdoors? Like, are planes going to go right over top of me as I'm sleeping? Or
That would
I
be
think it's
unfortunate.
decommissioned, right?
Yeah, it's docked.
Okay.
It doesn't.
Okay, good. No active planes flying over my head. Okay, that's good. It'd be like counting sheep. Just really loud ones. So we have middle school represented as well. It's very important for us to have you guys represented here because we're really going to be talking about the importance of people who are older than you and giving back to you. And we want to field that a little bit. But really, I'm going to hand this over to Holly a little bit because when we were talking about what we want to talk about, you actually really wanted this topic. And I think for something very recent, do you want to let everybody know why?
Sure. Yes, I was very passionate about this, specifically on Monday when I texted Rick. When he got the text, I'm like, we need to do this. What really struck me this weekend, so I went back to my home parish in Georgia, and I attended after the teen mass, which is a 5 p.m. mass, the youth group. And I wanted to be like, hey, like just to pop in. I'll lead, I'll co-lead with somebody already there. I just wanted to say hi to the middle school and high schoolers there. And it was very interesting to me because the majority of the small group leaders were probably in their 40s.
Oh, wow.
So it was a very interesting dynamic. And I was like the only young adult there,
I gotcha.
would say. And it really struck me because I was like, we need some more representation, And I'm like, we need to make a high call to our listeners that are young adults because we are most relatable in our lives to young adults while we are young adults.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if you guys can speak to that, Sydney and Kira. Well, I know that you have traveled a lot in your life and you've gotten to see many parishes and many parish cultures in a sense and youth groups. So have y'all had good experiences or maybe not so good experiences that you guys would like to share about your, experience with leadership with young adults leading?
I'd say like Vacation Bible School was always like a very good thing because a lot of the leaders were very young. So that was, I could like relate to them. It was very good.
Yeah, that's a good point. I always forget about that whole Vacation Bible School dynamic where you're traveling around going to like the art station or the chatter station. Chatter was a character that we love in our family still
Yes.
from Vacation Bible School. He was just a chipmunk puppet, right? Was that what he was?
Yeah.
That sound right?
Yeah.
And he would just get in the weirdest situations and he's my forever friend. I always remember that
like
phrase.
A southern accent.
It was so funny. So when you move from station to station, how did that dynamic work? Like what did the leadership look like there, Kira?
I feel like, like each section was like, it was very different because you could be like doing arts and crafts and then you're like reading the Bible and it's like, it's so different. So the leaders need to have, a different skill set or like, it switches between age groups.
Mm-hmm.
So they need to know how to like deal with the different age groups. And I think all of them did a very good job with that.
Nice. That's a good point. Like, I think sometimes when we go into something like a Vacation Bible School and we want to volunteer, but we don't know what to do.
Yeah.
Well, go with your skill set. So if you're just good at having fun, maybe it's time to lead the games, right?
That'd be fantastic.
Maybe you've got a voice. You can lead praise and worship, or maybe like art. Yeah, I mean, I feel like, especially vacation, that's a good, that's a really good example, Kira. You got my brain going now. Like all these different areas that touch on the different talents that people might have, right?
Yeah.
But you also had leaders that would take you from station to station. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so what did that look like? Who were those kind of leaders, Sydney? Because you remember Vacation Bible School as well, since we're on that topic.
I do, yes. Who's like normally I remember the leaders being, younger young adult people.
Mm-hmm.
Just people who could deal with little kids a bit better than others could. But yeah, I just remember them being like really gentle, like really caring, like genuinely wanting to like help you get to the next station. Like you could tell that they wanted to be there for you, like they wanted to help.
So they didn't know everything,
Yeah,
but
maybe.
it was in the way that they treated you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. I think that's an excellent point to flesh out too. Because I feel like sometimes, Holly, when we volunteer, we feel like, well, I can't do that. I don't know enough theology, or I don't know enough of this or enough of that. But I always ask teachers at the beginning of the year, who was your favorite teacher of all time?
Mm-hmm.
Like, think about that. Who was your favorite all-time teacher? And a lot of people go back to, second grade, Mrs. Smith, or whatever it is, right? And then I say, okay, good. Tell me 5 things that they taught you. Like, I want to know specifically what they taught you, and they can't. I said, but why were they your favorite teacher? Well, they were so kind. Like, you knew that they cared about you. They took time out. Oh, okay. So being a leader just means caring about the person. That's how you make the greatest impact. Like, yeah, you don't know all the theology, and guess what? Neither do I. But if you treat people well, you're qualified, right?
Of
Yeah.
course.
Yeah.
I think that's good. So outside of Vacation Bible School, which is a great one, Kira, Sydney, Holly's question, like your experience with youth groups especially would be, I think, a good one. When you get into like small group settings too. So we're taking me out of the equation. Take Dad out of the equation because he's usually the one up there kind of running the show a bit.
Yeah.
Outside of that, what has your experience been like with other leaders?
Well, it's been different in every state that we lived in. In Florida, it was pretty similar to Vacation Bible School because that's where we did it. It was like the same people who were helping with that were also helping with the youth group. So it was like, younger people who wanted to be there, who wanted to help however they could. And then in other places, it didn't have that sense of like wanting to help, like having that community. Like, it just didn't feel like the people that were there wanted to be there or wanted to help. So I think it just depends on like what type of people are in your area, like what type of people want to help and what type of people are there because they were forced to be there.
That's an excellent point too. That really, like your intentionality. Why are you doing what you're doing? Which is why I don't typically like asking for volunteers. Like say for youth ministry, I don't like just saying, well, let's put it in the bulletin or whatever, because typically the people that you would get as a response from that are probably not the type of people that would work well with kids. That's the dynamic of it. That's how that works. First of all, because probably a lot of young adults aren't reading the bulletin. I mean, that's pretty, some do though. I'm actually pretty surprised sometimes at who does. But for the most part, it has to be a personal conversation. Like you see somebody who's great with people, you have to personally approach them and invite, right? But now I think, Holly, we're into the sphere where we have to take that responsibility on ourselves too. Like we can't wait for the ask.
Correct.
Right? Like you didn't wait this Monday to go. You did.
Mm-hmm.
You just went in.
Right.
Yeah. Why?
It's what we're supposed to do. It's what we're called to do. And that reminds me of Acts 1, first chapter, where the apostles asked Jesus, like, what are you going to do? And then his response was pretty funny. He said, you will. You are going to do that. You are going to spread the gospel to all nations. Because he's going to leave. He's going to go right back up to heaven.
Yep.
But be with us in his presence here on earth. So we are called, it is our mission to do that. We are called to do it.
Yeah. I really like that. So when we were coming up with different things that we wanted to mold and make this podcast, one of the things that I kind of thought of right away, I think it's probably a simple, maybe easier question, but we're going to answer it anyway. Who influences you? And, we have a lot of influences in our life and sometimes we don't realize it. We don't think about it. I would hope to think that parents influence you. I think that's pretty clear. Whether you like that or not, I've had so many young people come up and talk to me about their parents, and they're like, "I'm never going to be like my mom." And then I've done this for so long, I've actually seen them grow up, and guess who they become exactly like?
Their parents.
Their parents, their mom, their dad. So it's just obviously parents are a big influencer. But we'll throw this question over to you, ladies. Who influences you? It could be whoever you think. You come up with an example of who is it that influences you? Who do you think?
I guess I'll go first. there's a YouTuber named Quinn Bobin,
Mm-hmm.
and he like plays video games and like does videos of him doing it, like reacting to everything.
Mm-hmm.
I noticed like just now that like certain things that he says, like little quirks,
Mhm.
I like started saying.
Yeah.
So it's like
That's a great example. That's like an immediate influence, isn't
Yeah.
it? Like how we speak and the things we think about. Yeah, no, that's a great example of a YouTuber having some sway in your life, right?
yeah.
Yeah, that's good. Sydney, do you have anybody that influences you? Could be anybody.
I would also agree with like YouTubers. I remember one time there was a YouTuber that I was watching. She had a British accent, and it's kind of the same thing. I realized that I started saying stuff with a British accent. It was just instantly, like after I was done watching the video, I just had started talking in a British accent.
That was you? I thought I had another kid that was from Great Britain. Wow, that's incredible.
Another one is the show Bluey. They're Australian.
I love that show.
And so it's influenced my little sisters. Like they'll start saying like Australian things, like not English things. Like they'll use the Australian alternative for words.
Do you have an example of any of those? I can't
Like-
think off the top of my head, but I know what you're talking
I
about.
know. Cheeky instead of
They'll
like
say
naughty. They say cheeky.
So little Tessa will start saying cheeky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then instead of like parts or pieces of something, they'll say bits. like this thing has a lot of bits.
That's so funny. Isn't that great?
Yeah.
But and so I have heard my little girls say things, and I'm like, what did she just like? Huh? Where did that come from? And you're right. I mean, that show, the way that they say things greatly influences how they speak, which greatly influences the way that they interact. Right? So YouTubers, entertainment, music. Mhm.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Do we have any influencers in music for you guys? Come on, you have two initials that you should say. I have a hat sitting right over there that has his initials on there. That NF. Kind of a big influence in your life, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah.
His music, his style, the words.
Yeah.
We got to go to a concert together,
We
didn't
did
we?
get to go to a
That was
concert.
pretty incredible.
It was.
Yeah. So outside of the entertainment world, which obviously, clearly, big time. Holly, before we get off that though, Holly,
Sure.
who influences you in the entertainment world?
In the entertainment world,
Mm.
I mean, if you're going, my favorite actress is Audrey Hepburn.
Whoa. Okay. You're going old school. I love
Very
it.
old school. That's the first person that popped into my head. And it's probably because of her style. See, I was always drawn to that. So it's very interesting. So you ladies were talking about like language, and I'm saying style, and there's music, and there's just so many things that we adopt in our lives.
Yeah.
That's so interesting that you guys say that.
You know who mine was in high school?
Who?
My biggest influencer from entertainment? You ready? Jim Carrey.
Really?
Absolutely. Because when I was in high school, okay, get ready. This will date me for sure. There was a show called In Living Color on. And so you like, what is that? So it was by the Wayans brothers, like Damon Wayans and everybody. And some people got their big breaks, like Jamie Foxx got his big break on the show, Jennifer Lopez, Jim Carrey. This was their first big gig. So it was a comedy sketch show. And it was so funny. And Jim Carrey I think Jim Carrey stole the show all the time. Anytime he was on there, he stole the show. So I would find myself at school trying to be funny just like him. I would take what he did and try to just basically take Jim Carrey and place him in my school. Right? That's what I tried. And it really, I mean, it changed the way that the jokes that I had. It changed delivery. It changed my attitude. It changed my perception of reality because of this one person. Right? It formed me in a lot of ways. So if we think of it that way, how vital then so we have these YouTubers and musicians and actresses and actors, right? I'm sure if I said, who's your biggest influence in dance, you could probably name a couple because you dance, right? But I think you're hitting on something that's way more important, Holly, right? Way more important than forming us entertainment-wise or anything like that.
It's more about the heart.
Mm.
And like what's forming our interior life. And these influencers certainly do that. So who are we putting in front of us as role models
Oh.
in our lives? And the people that are, leading in church can also do that, as you guys have both said. So I guess who's a good example in y'all's life besides your dad, of course. He's a fun older young adult, we'll say.
There we go.
He's young at heart. He's very young.
He's a
at
fun
heart.
old guy.
I mean, have y'all experienced like a really good like presence in your life of a young adult? Maybe that's had a good role model for you.
And I think if you think of Florida, some of those people would be a good.
Or
Yeah.
characteristics of that person or of people that you guys look to as role models that you want to emulate.
Well, he wasn't a young adult, but there was a father back in Florida, Father Tom.
Mm-hmm.
We did altar serving a lot with him, and whenever we like went up and say peace, he'd always be like so optimistic about it, and he'd be like happy. And all the other fathers, I love them, but like they would just kind of shake the hands and would walk away. But Father Tom was always like so energetic. So I feel like I kind of want to be like that instead of how the other fathers were.
That's great. What about again in youth group and stuff? We had Friday night fun night. Do you guys remember that?
Absolutely.
Do you remember that I was not a big part of that?
Yeah, I do.
In fact, at all?
actually. I questioned that a lot. I was actually,
Yep.
I was like, is this supposed to be happening? Like, where did he go?
I just kind of drop you guys off and be like, peace. And
Yeah.
so you had different people leading that.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember those kind of people?
Yes.
Okay. What do you remember about them? What characteristics do you remember about them?
Very similar to you, actually. I don't know if that was on purpose, if that's what they were going for, but like, like very energetic and like just like down to earth, like trying to be like relatable to the people that were there.
Yeah. I can just immediately picture at least 5 of them.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, there were a lot.
That, like just me personally, I still stay in contact with some of those people. And it's wonderful and it's great. In fact, they're probably listening right now too, which is a tremendous thing. But wow, okay. So you have the influences in the social media world. We'll just call it that. And then you have influences in what I like to call the real world, right? People that are tangible right in front of you. You can have conversations with. It's not just a one-way thing. So who do you think influences you more? It's kind of a trick question. It's not a trick question, actually. It's a very straightforward question. I'm just going to give you the answer. It's the person that's right in front of you, right? Like just think about your family, how much they form you because you're around them so much, you become like them, right? So can you ladies see the value in having people who in the faith world are influencers for you? Could you, like, what if it was just me leading all the time and it was just me? I already saw the look on your face. You're like,
Their eyes
please no.
widened for everyone listening.
You're like, this isn't happening, is it? What did you trick me into here? But we like even on Wednesday nights at our summit, we have some young adults that are from UT even helping us out, right? You remember them?
Yeah.
Yeah, of course you do, right? And they're fun. They get up and do some different things. Could you imagine if they weren't there? Ooh,
Well, it kind of was like that before we had their help.
exactly. And would you say we're better off for having them?
Yes.
Yeah. It's a lot more chaotic
offense
before.
to you, but
None taken. But yeah, it's a lot different, isn't it? When you
Yeah,
have
it
more
is.
people, right? And Holly, you've been able to give. You've done some volunteering and everything. What does that do for you as like a volunteer? What good is giving back to the younger generations? What does that do?
For me, I feel like giving is better than receiving. In all, I guess.
Ah, the cliche.
Yes, the very cliche term, but it's very true. And I personally, I just feel like I am loving people more when I help them in a tangible way. And I'm like there with them, walking with them in whatever journey they are on almost.
Yeah.
Or trying to redirect slightly, in the meantime. But when I give back, I just really want, just like, I look at the picture that's in Rick's office right now, and he reminds me, like, probably almost every time we podcast, and we always point to the picture. And I don't know, Rick, do you want to describe that picture really quick?
Yeah, it's my favorite.
yeah.
It's my absolute favorite. So in my office on one wall, I kind of have a Jesus wall, right? But my favorite image is Jesus on a ledge. And this is the crucified Jesus, but he's not on the cross, right? Because you can see in his hands there are holes. So this is already the resurrected Christ, right? And in this image, on this ledge, he is holding on with his left hand, barely holding on, like stretching out as far as he can with barely holding on. And he is just reaching over this ledge, giving everything he's got. I mean, he is on the point of falling down this cavern, right? This mountainous area. And he's reaching for this one sheep who is barely holding on itself. But he's reaching for one. There's not a whole flock there. He's reaching for one sheep. And in the background, you see the vulture is ready. It's like flying, ready for that sheep to be let go. Yet Jesus is giving everything for a single sheep, for the one.
For the one.
For the one.
And that picture is a great representation of like, kind of like, I would like to think that I think like that all the time. I don't, but it is a great reminder because it's, just one more soul. And we are not saviors, obviously.
No.
We are nothing close, but Jesus is. And through the Holy Spirit, he can work in us to help these people that we're going to encounter in our lives, and they are true gifts.
Yeah.
And if we try in our best efforts to treat every person like Jesus does in that picture with the one sheep, how much more good could we do?
Yeah.
If every person picked another person
Right.
to lead or to help lead back to the flock.
It's tough to have that mentality of a one person is important because we live in a culture that celebrates numbers, right? So how much can I get for my money, right? Or how many likes did that video have? How many subscribers, and you get monetarily blessed because of that, right? The more viewers you have, the more subscribers you have, the more It's always about the numbers.
More.
And I understand we count people because people count. I get that. I understand that. But the real ministry happens with who's right in front of your face. And how many truly can you have right in front of your face, having an honest conversation with people, right? It can be a small group, right? And typically it's almost always one-on-one. It's this sharing of life. It's that image in that photo. Now, girls, when you've been in youth group, a typical youth group runs where we do something up front, everybody's all together, but then there are the moments of breaking out into small groups too, that sometimes we have the ability to do. First of all, do you enjoy that?
Yeah. I mean, it's nice to like see how other individual people think about something that we just learned instead of like overall and what you think yourself. So I always enjoyed little discussions where you could see what each other think.
Nice.
For me, it depends on how big the group is. I tend to like it more when it's a smaller group instead of a lot of people, because if it's a bigger group, you obviously can't get to each individual person, and then there are some people who are left just kind of sitting there awkwardly. But when it's a smaller group, it gives everyone an opportunity to speak about, whatever the topic may be. And there's something about that that's a lot more comforting than having this big group of people that just don't know what to say or what to do.
And you just kind of get lost in it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's only one way that we can have those experiences, right? Like, I think everybody would agree. You've had small group experience, right, Holly?
Yes.
And is that a positive?
Oh, absolutely. And I don't know if this just came to mind, Sydney, when you were talking. Does it allow for more vulnerability within your group?
Yes, definitely. It does.
I was just thinking about that because I was like, well, you feel more comfortable in that small group setting.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're, speaking in front of everyone, you're just kind of like you're telling your whole life story to, many people. But when you have a concentrated group of people, it feels more intimate in that like you can share more things too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an excellent point. And there's really only one way to do that, and that's to have more people who are willing to just journey along with you, right? So we can't have small groups if it's just me up there leading, which is why it's so wonderful that we have people who are giving their time and their talents, right? In terms of just even youth group. And I know that's just one sphere that we're talking about is youth group. And you can give in other ways. In fact, I want to bring up some statistics here that I thought was very interesting. There was let's see, let me get off this photo. Here we go. All right. So I found a Great Place to Work team. It's called Our Great Place to Work team uncovered a trend that about selecting the best places to work, and because it had to do with them giving back. So they analyzed 350,000 plus employees. Okay, that's a huge cross section, and the link between organizational giving and employee experience made a huge positive impact. Let me just say this. This was just at a place to work where the place at work, the workplace inspired or created opportunities to give back, okay, to give of their time. It said this, 3 statistics I want to point out. Those people that worked at those companies that said that giving is essential to our work environment. They said they were 4 times more likely to say that their teams give extra to get the job done. So if they're volunteering, right, outside of the workplace, if they're volunteering when they're at work, these guys said we're 4 times more likely to give extra on the job because they're creating an atmosphere of giving outside. How about this? 11 times more likely to say they plan to stay with the organization for the long haul. 11 times more likely, because they're finding fulfillment in the organization outside of just the reason and purpose that the organization originally existed, right? And here's the last statistic, and man, is this a good one. You ready? And I think you can apply, by the way, all of this to ministry, this one especially. People who work in an environment that is about giving are 14 times more likely to say they look forward to coming to work. Mm. Now, if I were to tell you, I have this one trick for you to feel like you want to go to work 14 times more than you want to go to work right now. And I told you it'd be by giving. It'd actually be by giving. It might surprise some people, but here's the reality. We have volunteers we have good volunteers here. We always need more, of course. But when I talk to the volunteers at the end of the night, you can see it in their face. You can hear it in their voice and what they share. They're so excited that they were a part of it, that they felt like their life had worth, it had meaning. They were giving to something that is everlasting. And that's the difference between, I believe, volunteering anywhere else and then volunteering for the faith, right? Because listen, volunteering is great, and I've done a lot of volunteering outside of the faith, but to me, nothing beats volunteering for the faith in some way, shape, or form, because what we're really doing is we're spreading the gospel. And why is that so vital? It was because we were commissioned to do by Christ, but even more so, it was what we were created for by our Father in heaven, was to further the kingdom, not to further our kingdom. Right? Is to further his kingdom. So why do you think it's so great when you do it? Why do you think your soul erupts? It's because that's what you were created for. That is your purpose. That is your reason for being here, right?
That's a mic drop.
Mic drop moment. Thanks for joining us. But really, I mean, that's the reality. That's why you feel so great about it. Sydney, you help volunteer sometimes with Summit, the middle school. So you're a high school student, but you volunteer with the middle school student. What do you do when you volunteer?
I would say the big thing is I help do praise and worship. Mm-hmm. I sometimes help set out the food, and then every now and then help with the games.
Yep. And does that give you fulfillment to be able to do those things?
Yeah, especially praise and worship, I would say is the big one.
Yeah. Yeah. And Kira, you have been able to help at VBS stuff, at some different things. You help set up sometimes, right?
Yeah.
What's that like for you? How do you feel when you have given yourself to mission? It's really missionary work, even if you're just setting up chairs, which I know you do a lot too.
That's my job.
I kind of force you to do that, don't I? Actually, you do it joyfully, but how does that make you feel when you are giving of your time and talent?
It's going to sound so cliche, but like, getting stuff, it feels nice, but like, what are you going to do with that? Like, you get stuff, what are you going to do with that? When you're giving, it feels so much better. And especially when you're helping someone else find faith. Because the understanding of your faith is probably the best gift someone else could give you. And it's the best gift you could give to someone else.
That's
So
an excellent point.
that was really good. I need to write that down, Kira.
Yeah, same. I just saw a video too that was like, why do people not talk about Christianity? Because they, well, listen, everybody that was a Christian, somebody else told them about it in some way, shape, or form, right?
Yeah.
And that's really what you do when you volunteer. You're telling other people about Christ, whether you are doing praise and worship, giving the message, setting up chairs, putting out food, right? It's all part of the process. So I know, Holly, we're here for a big call out, right? What is the big call out for our young adults that are listening today? What would you want to tell them?
I would want to tell them that, again, you are the most relatable right now in this part of your life, and you only have so much time. Now, that sounds a little bit, scary, like, oh, we only have so much time. But it's true. This life is fleeting, and you want to make the most of it. And as Rick said earlier, when you're giving, you are, and what Kira said too, you're giving to the faith, you're giving, and you're just receiving. You're receiving so much love. There's just this exchange of love that you're going to experience. If you haven't already before, I'm sure a lot of our listeners have already done plenty of volunteer work in their life. But this is just a call to more young adults, and just to volunteer your time, your talents, and your treasure to other young adults and walk with them in the faith and be their role model.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think one thing that sums it all up, when I was in middle school, I always wanted to be a high schooler. They were the best. Like, they were the coolest people around, period. And when I was in high school, those college students, man, I couldn't wait. I wanted to be just like them. And so it's the same. Like, when in terms of ministry, it's the same thing. Middle schoolers think high schoolers, if they're at an event, man, that's it right there. And high schoolers, if they see young adults, oh man, that's tremendous. It's just this natural looking up to, because you've been there, you've done that, and you did it recently. And you seem to have something that I want, right? So today, just really pray about where you're at as a young adult. Pray about where the Lord is leading you to give, because it is in giving that we receive. It is in pardoning that we are part. Oh, sorry. That's a whole other, and it is in dying that we are part. Isn't that a prayer? Don't we say that?
Yes.
What prayer is that we pray?
St. Francis prayer.
That's
yes.
right. It is literally in the prayer. It is in giving that we receive. You remember hearing that probably 1,000, and we prayed that prayer how many times? A lot of times.
A lot.
Right? Now it means something different, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Well, we have definitely run out of time. I know we ran over time, but I'm just going to say it. I'm super thrilled we did, and I'm so glad that you ladies joined us today. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah.
Was it fun?
Yes.
Yes.
First podcast, check.
Hooray.
Now where are you going to go from here? You're going to create your own
Lunch.
podcast? Oh, lunch. Literally, I'm going to lunch after this. But you want to create your own podcast now?
Maybe not right now.
That's okay. That's probably how... No, I was going to say that's probably how I felt. No, I've always wanted... I'm not going to lie to you. That's how I always wanted to do it. But thank you, Holly, for bringing this up. Thank you all for listening. Listen, share this, like it, subscribe. If I had a donate now button, I'd say do it, but I don't, so it's okay. But you can donate your time and your talent. We ask you to consider doing that in whatever shape or form that looks like. And maybe that is with a high school youth group or a middle school youth group, or maybe it's with RCIA, or maybe it's with one of the guilds that we have here at the cathedral, or even in our young adult ministry. Whatever it is, pray about where the Lord is ushering you into. Thank you so much for joining us. We look forward to seeing you next time on Happy Hour.